O Lord, each morning when we start our day at home, bless us with a successful day. Bless our teachers, one and all our friends, both big and small. Bless our parents, whose love we share, and keep them always in your care. We thank thee, dearest Lord, for this new morning with its light, for rest and shelter of the night, for health and food, for love and friends. Now guide us through another day, when at home and when at play, and keep us safe from all evils. May He teach you a thought. May I do all things I ought, enlighten our minds, strengthen our memories, and direct our wills to do what is right. O God, grant us courage to seek truth and make us truly wise by leading us from darkness to light. May all in this world be happy. May they be prosperous. May they be filled with joy. May they be filled with peace. May they be filled with love. May they be filled with happiness. May they be filled with joy. May they be filled with peace.
Okay. So good morning all. So time is almost 9:03 and still even half has not joined. Is not. Anyway. So we'll start with our new topic, which is the solid state. Okay. So matter exists in different forms. What is the general definition for matter?
which can occupy place or which have mass volume.
It is anything that has mass and occupies space. That is what we call as matter. Okay. And this matter will be composed of constituent particles. Constituent particles in the sense it can be atoms, it can be molecules, or even it can be ions. In ionic compounds, it will be made of ions, and it can be in the form of atoms. Solids can be in the form of atoms, especially in the case with the metals, and it can be in the form of molecules. Okay. Now there's a lot of correlation between the properties and the pattern of arrangement of constant particles. Properties depends upon the structure. Structure in this sense, the nature of interaction between the constituent particles. When I say constituent particles, it means that it can be atoms, it can be ions, or it can be molecules. So this is what I mean by constituent particles. So the properties generally depends upon the structure. That means the pattern of arrangement and the binding force between the constituent particles. And by knowing the structure of a solid, we will be able to modify the properties of the compound, and we'll be able to develop new solids with the desired properties. So that is how, in that way, it is related with this one. And we know matter exists in different forms. What are the different forms in which matter can exist?
Solid, liquid, gas.
Solid
Generally,
liquid gas. Solid liquid
generally
gas.
solid, liquid, and gas. And moreover, we have different other forms also. What is the most the form in which most of the substances exist in universe? Which is the
Solid, sir.
Gas.
Gas.
is it
Yes.
is it gas in the universe? I am asking.
Liquid, liquid.
Solid.
Other than these three states, this is the general three states we are
Plasma.
discussing, and it will be plasma. It will be in the form of plasma, and some other forms are there. What are the other forms along with the plasma? Any idea?
Bose-Einstein condensate.
Bose-Einstein condensate.
Condensate. Bose-Einstein condensate. Likewise, different forms are there, and we are limiting our discussion with the solids. And about gases and liquids, we discussed last year in the chapter, in the fifth chapter, and here we will be talking about solids. And why what is the thing that makes a substance to be either in the solid, liquid, or gaseous state? What determines the state of the matter?
Intermolecular attraction.
It will be
Intermolecular attraction.
it is intermolecular attraction, and is it the only factor?
Van der Waals force.
It is intermolecular force of attraction. Van der Waals force is intermolecular force of attraction. Is this the only factor?
Hydrogen bonding.
All these are hydrogen bonding, van der Waals forces, all these are intermolecular force of attraction. And other two things are there, and there will be acting in the opposite direction. One is thermal energy. One is thermal energy, which will try the molecules to move apart. What is the thermal energy? Energy due to the movement, and it is given to the molecules in the form of heat. So when temperature is raised, molecules will increase their kinetic energy and they will try to move apart. And the second one is intermolecular force of attraction, which will try to bind the molecules together. Okay, and the magnitude of these two forces will be determine the state of the material. If the thermal energy is more, it will be mostly in the gaseous state, and if the intermolecular force of attraction are very strong, and if it is at a sufficiently low temperature, it will be in the solid state. So solid state, for a substance to be solid state, their intermolecular force of attraction should be maximum, and the thermal energy, that means the temperature should be low. At sufficiently low temperature, they will have low thermal energy, so kinetic energy will be less, so that the molecules will not move apart, they will have a fixed position. But even in that fixed position, they will be able to oscillate in their mean position. So that gives the definite shape, volume, and mass for the solids. So for a substance to be solid, it should have strong intermolecular force of attraction, as well as the thermal energy should be less. So then only we'll say that they will be in the solid state. Okay. So what are the characteristics of a solid state? All these things we are already familiar with. Just we will remind this thing. What are the characteristics of the solid state?
Solid has definite mass, volume,
Different shape, different volume, sir.
and structure,
Uh,
definite structure.
Different structure.
it
Incompressible.
will have a definite structure. It will
Intermolecular
have
force is
definite
minimum.
volume. It will have definite mass. All the intermolecular force of attraction is maximum. Okay,
Incompressible.
incompressible. Okay, and the particles will not move apart. They will have definite mass, volume, and shape. Intermolecular distances are short. Forces are strong. Particles have fixed positions, and they will oscillate in their positions, and they are incompressible. So they are incompressible. Okay, and solids can be generally classified into two categories. That also we discussed last year. What are the two categories in which solids can be discussed classified into? It can be classified as
Crystalline
crystalline
amorphous.
solids and amorphous solids. Can you give the difference between crystalline and amorphous solids?
Crystalline solid will have definite
So
structures, ordered structure, but amorphous solid will not have that ordered structure.
yeah, that is the basic. The basic difference is in the arrangement of the constituent particles. Here, the first one is crystalline, the other one is amorphous, and the basic difference is in the structure of pattern of arrangement of constituent particles. And in crystalline substance, we will say that the constituent particles will have a regular pattern of arrangement of constituent particles, which will repeat itself throughout the crystal. This regular pattern of arrangement will repeat itself throughout the crystal, and we'll say that it will have a long range order throughout the crystal. And you can see that in the this crystal will be made of very minute uh, crystals, and these crystals when they expand in 3 dimensions, it will give you the entire crystalline solid. Whereas if you are talking about these amorphous solids, this is the amorphous solids, they will not have this long range order, they will have only short range order, and the arrangement of constituent particles is irregular. Arrangement of constituent particles is irregular, but here you can see that there will be a regular repeating pattern, or the regular pattern will be there that will repeat itself in 3 dimensions, that will give the crystalline nature. So that is the basic difference in the arrangement, long range and short range order. Examples, if I say for crystalline substance, it can be quartz. Quartz can be a crystalline substance. The solid materials, the metals like iron or silver, whatever it may be, that will be crystalline nature. Okay, or this ionic solids like NaCl or KCl, All these are crystalline in nature. Whereas amorphous solids, you are very much familiar with these two types of materials. Amorphous materials we have seen in the laboratory. Can you give an example for an amorphous material in the laboratory that we have seen for the identification of salt based on the difference in the structure or difference in the nature? We identified them. They will be highly powdered. What kind of substances are they? There we told this they will be the very powdered and amorphous. So I leave it.
Calcium salts.
Not calcium salt. I think carbonates. It will be finely powdered form. Okay, so that is there. Otherwise, so in the general, when you are taking glass is an amorphous solid, plastic is an amorphous solid, rubber is an amorphous solid. So these are amorphous, whereas the other things are crystalline. Okay, and most of the materials will be in the crystalline substance. And as I told you, uh, each and every crystalline particles in the crystal solid will have a regular geometrical shape that will repeat itself in 3 dimensions to generate the entire crystal. Whereas these amorphous solids will not have a regular shape. It will not have a regular repeating pattern throughout the crystal. And when you are talking about the melting point and melting point, you take the case of a plastic or a rubber. Can you say that you will be by heating, you will be able to identify a particular melting point?
No,
Will you
sir.
be able? No, because when we heat it, it will first melt and it melts over a range of temperature. We will not be able to identify the particular temperature at which that substance is melting. Whereas when you are talking about a crystal solid, there will be a given temperature, there will be a sharp temperature at which this substance will melt. So we say that crystal substances will have a sharp melting point, which will be characteristic of that material. Whereas amorphous material or solids will not have a sharp melting point. It will melt over a range of temperature. Then another property related with that one is their cutting ability. When it is cut with a sharp edged tool, they will give two pieces, and the newly generated pieces will have surfaces which are plain and smooth. Okay, so we said that they will have cutting property. Whereas when we cut an amorphous material with a tool, they will be cut into two pieces with irregular shape. Okay, and we'll again say that they will have a definite characteristic enthalpy of fusion for amorphous, crystal materials, and whereas amorphous materials will not have a definite enthalpy of fusion. They will not have an enthalpy of fusion. And crystalline materials are anisotropic, whereas uh, amorphous materials are isotropic. So this difference between isotropic and anisotropic should be known to you. Okay. Now here you take this thing. These two structures are given. If I take a property of this crystal material, okay, let me say the refractive index or electrical resistance, I will say that this property will not be same in all directions. If it is measured along the x direction, or if it is measured along the y direction, or if it is measured along the z direction, it will be different. So let me say, I'll take an example. Here, I am taking an crystalline material, which is having a long range order. Like this will represent. Okay. So let me say, if I am measuring a property in this direction, along this direction, the arrangement is bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger. Now, let me say, I am taking in this direction, all small. Am I right? So the arrangement of constant particles will be different in different directions. That is why the measured properties will show different magnitude in different directions. If a measured property like refractive index, physical properties like refractive index what we say, the electric resistance, if it is different in different directions, then it will be anisotropic. It will be anisotropic. Anisotropic. Okay. And the measured property for a amorphous material will be same in different directions. Why it is same in different directions? Why it will be same in different directions? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why it is same in different directions for amorphous material?
Because it has only short range order, sir.
Yeah, we can simply say that the constant particles are random. It will have short range order. The regular pattern is not at all there throughout the crystal. So since it is irregular, the arrangement of particles will be almost same in all directions since it is randomly arranged. And we'll say that when it is measured in different directions, it will show same value. If it shows same value, what will you say? Such materials? What will you say about such materials? What is that property associated?
Isotropic.
It is isotropic. This is that is they will be known as isotropic. So they are isotropic if their measured property is same in different directions, and if the measured property is different in different directions, it will be anisotropic. I hope you got the difference between the isotropic and anisotropic. Did you get? Did you get the difference?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then,
Sir,
yeah. Tell me.
can you give some examples of properties which will be measured?
The physical properties I told you, refractive index, or I told you electrical resistance. Such properties will show different values. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then these crystal materials, we call them as true solids, whereas amorphous materials will be pseudo solids or super cooled liquids. So I have told you an example of this thing, the glass, which is an amorphous material. You might have seen when we are talking about very old buildings, and when we look at the window panes of these very old glass window panes of the very old buildings, very old, I am not talking about 3 4 or 5 years old, it should be very old. And if you clearly observe the window panes of the very old buildings, you can see that the glass will be thicker at the bottom compared to the top. Have you ever observed that one? Window panes of very old buildings, if you take you can see that glass particles will be thicker at the bottom than at the top, which means that the glass particles are moving. The glass materials or the particles which make the glass is moving, and that movement of the glass materials or glass particles cannot be observed within 1 year or 2 year, but it can be observed after a long gap, after a number of years. Okay, large number of years. So which means that the particles are moving. That means they show fluidity. What are fluids?
Which can flow.
Which
Flow.
where the particles can move, the constant particles can move. Give me examples of fluids. Liquids and gases. Liquids and gases are known as fluids. But here, for solid, what is that? For glass material also, the particles are moving slightly, and the rate of movement is very less. But even then, they are moving. So we feel that they are solid, but they will be pseudo solid, or they will be considered as super cold liquids. And if a question is asked why a glass is called as pseudo solid or super cold liquid, what will be answer?
Particles can flow.
The answer should be glass is an amorphous material. Glass is an amorphous material. That is the reason why it is showing this one. And also, you will see that these amorphous materials, when it is subject to high temperature and pressure for a longer period of longer period of time, crystallization will take place. Crystallization will take place. So glass materials of very old civilizations, you can find that it will have a milky appearance. Glass materials of very old age, they will have a milky appearance. It is due to when they are subjected to different temperature and pressure, crystallization will take place. Amorphous materials are slowly getting converted into crystalline material. So that is the reason why they are milky in appearance. These two things you have to keep in mind. Why the window panes are thicker at the bottom of very old buildings, as well as why they are showing milky appearance. Also, because milky appearance is due to the crystallization of the amorphous glass, and it is thicker at the bottom because of the amorphous nature of the material. Okay, and as I told you, they will have a long range order for crystal materials, and amorphous materials will have short range order. Okay, so this is isotropic and anisotropic. Like refractive index, when measured from different directions, uh, it will result in different values for crystal solids. This is called anisotropic, whereas some of the substances do not show this property, and it will have same values in different directions. That is why we said that it is isotropic. They are called as isotropic materials.
So,
Yeah.
what is the meaning of short range order and long range order?
Short range order and long range order, in the sense, the constituent particles will have a regular repeating pattern, periodicity in the pattern of arrangement of constituent particles throughout the crystal for crystal material. But this regular repeating pattern or periodicity in the regular arrangement of constituent particles, that cannot be seen throughout the crystal in case of amorphous material. That is why we said that one is having short range, the other one is having long range order. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah. Did you get it clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So amorphous solids are usually termed as pseudo solids or supercooled liquids because of their ability of amorphous solids to flow. Glass tends to become milky in appearance over a long period of time. This is because of slow crystallization of glass due to difference in when it is subjected to different temperature and pressure. Amorphous silicon is used in photovoltaic cell. Amorphous solids, they are mainly used in photovoltaic cells. And when you look around us, you can see that most of the materials will be in the crystalline form. And as I told you, the property and the use of a crystal depends upon the structure. Okay, and the arrangement of constant particles and the binding force. And based on the intermolecular forces of attraction that exist between the constituent particles in a crystalline solids can be generally classified into four categories. It can be molecular crystal or molecular solids, it can be ionic solids, it can be network solids, or it can be metallic solids. So these are the four different ways under which the crystalline solids can be classified. And what is the base for this classification?
Bonds. Type of bond.
It is based type of bond or based on the type of intermolecular forces of attraction. Intermolecular forces of attraction. Okay. And when we talk about the molecular solid, the constituent particles, what can be the name itself indicate? What can be the constituent particles?
Molecules.
The molecules will be the constant particles, or it can be in some of the cases like argon or helium or neon, it will be some atoms. Okay, so it can be atoms or molecules, and they will be called as crystal solids or molecular solids. And these molecular solids can be polar, it can be non-polar, it can be hydrogen bonded. So molecular solids can be further classified as non-polar, polar, and hydrogen bonded. So what should be non-polar molecular solids? It is, as I told you, it is based on the difference in the intermolecular force of attraction. So what can be non-polar?
Covalent molecules.
Yeah. Give me an example for a non-polar molecule.
H2, Cl2.
H2, Cl2, N2,
Carbon sulfate.
CCl4. Okay. What is it? H2S. H2S is not.
CL4,
You can
sir.
say any molecule which is any molecule which is made of similar kind of atoms like H2, N2, I2. There is no electronegativity difference between them. They will be non-polar in nature. And as I told you, some of the atoms, if a material is made of atoms like the gas like helium or neon, they will be atomic form. So they are non-polar. If the particles are non-polar, the constant particles are non-polar, what can be the kind of interaction that exists between the constant particles?
London force.
London force. It will be London force, or it will be dispersion force. It will be dispersion force with the weakest of the intermolecular forces. Which are the different types of intermolecular forces?
Hydrogen bonding. London
Hydrogen bonding.
Van der Waals.
What are the different types of van der Waals force I am asking?
Dipole, dipole.
Dipole interaction.
Dipole.
Induced dipole and dispersion forces. Okay, instantaneous forces, or we call them dispersion or latent forces. So these are the four categories. Out of that, if you arrange them in the magnitude, the weakest will be latent forces or in dispersion forces. Then it will be followed by dipole, induced dipole. Then it will be followed by dipole interactions, and the strongest will be hydrogen bonds. Okay, so here the molecules are non-polar, so interactions will be weakest, so they will be London forces or dispersion forces. And normally in the room temperature, such materials will be in the form of gas, or they will be in the form of liquids. They will be either in the form of gas or a liquid. And these materials will have low, since the forces of attraction are very weak, the melting points will be very less, and they will be a poor conductors of heat as well as electricity. And when you come to molecular solids, it should be the solid should be made of polar molecules. Give me an example for a polar molecule.
HCl.
HCl or SO2. These are polar molecules. There is electronegativity difference between the atoms, so the bonds will be polar, the molecules will be polar. And if the molecules are polar like HCl or SO2, what can be the type of interaction, attractive forces existing between the molecules?
Dipole.
Dipole interactions will be the force of attraction. Therefore, it is stronger compared to non-polar molecules. Attractions are stronger, so we can say that the melting and boiling points will be higher compared to non-polar molecules. Their melting and boiling points are higher, and even then, such materials will be normally under room conditions. Under room conditions, they will be in the gas or liquid state. They will be in the gas and liquid state, and they will be soft generally and non-conductors of electricity as well. Now the third category is hydrogen bonded. So hydrogen bonded in the sense their hydrogen will be covalently bonded to the elements like what are the three elements to which hydrogen can be bonded?
Fluorine,
Covalently,
oxygen, and nitrogen.
yeah, nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine. Nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine. They will be covalently bonded to these electronegative elements, and it will develop a stronger type of dipole-dipole interactions, which we call as the hydrogen bond. Any doubts in the formation of hydrogen bonds? I hope you are very much familiar with the hydrogen bonds. Are you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The bond between hydrogen and nitrogen will be called as a covalent bond or a hydrogen bond. In ammonia, the bond between nitrogen and hydrogen, is it a is it a hydrogen bond or is it a normal covalent bond?
Normal covalent.
It is a
Covalent.
normal covalent bond, and the hydrogen, which is electropositive, will attract the electronegative of element of the another atom. That attraction due to the partial separation of charges, that is what we call as the hydrogen bond. It is not a real bond, that you have to keep in mind. Okay, and give me an example for a hydrogen bonded solid.
H2O.
H2O, H2O, NH3, HF. Or if they are in the solid form, if they are obtained in the solid form, they will be the example for hydrogen bonded solids. And normally, you take the case of water. What is the general form in which it exists under normal conditions?
Liquid.
Liquid.
It will be either in the form of volatile liquid or in the form of soft solids. It will be either volatile solids or soft solids. So that is about the molecular solids. It is the constant particles can be atoms or molecules, and it can be three types: non-polar, polar, and hydrogen bonded. Okay. Now we'll go for the second category of crystals, which is the ionic crystals. Ionic. So as I told you about these molecular solids, non-polar, polar, and hydrogen bonded. So I have given this PPT in your uploaded. You can take it and you can use it for your notes. So non-polar will be soft. All the hydrogen bonded will be little harder. Insulator of electricity. All the three. Here melting point will be very low for non-polar. Polar will be having slightly higher, but again comparative it will have low melting point, and hydrogen bonded will also have low melting point. Intermolecular force of dispersion forces. Here dipole-dipole interactions. Here hydrogen bonds. Examples are given: CCl4, sorry, CCl4, H2, CO2, argon, HCl, SO2, H2O in ice. Okay, these are all examples. So we'll go for the next category, which is the uh, we'll go for ionic solids. So in ionic solids, what can be the constant particles?
Ions.
Ion.
Ion.
Ion. So what can be the type of interaction existing between the molecules?
Electrostatic.
Electrostatic. Electrostatic. Coulombic force of attraction between the opposite ions, and they will be orderly arranged. And these attractions between the positive and negative ions will give them a definite shape and fixed positions. And these forces are very strong. Ionic bonds, interactions, Coulombic interactions are very strong, and because of that, solids are hard and they will be brittle in nature. Okay, ionic solids are hard and brittle in nature, and the ions are not free to move in the solid state. So, will they be a conductor in the solid state?
No, sir.
No. And when it is, but when it is melted in the molten state or in the aqueous solution, they will be a good conductor. Ionic solids will be a good conductor in the molten or in the liquid state. Why?
Free ions.
Free ions.
These yeah, ions will be free to move. Ions will be free to move, and therefore they will become good conductors of electricity. And we can give any number of examples for ionic solid like NaCl, KCl, Na2SO4. Like with any number of examples we can give. Then that next category of crystal solids is metallic solid. Metallic solid. Can you tell me what is the structure of a metal?
Solid, sir.
What is the Structure of a metal.
Lattice.
Network.
No. There will you have a kernel. Do you know what is kernel?
Positive, sir. Positive choice.
There will be a positive particle except the valence electron. So that is what we call as kernel. For even an atom, the part other than the valence electron will be positive in charge, and that will be called as kernel. And these kernels will be orderly arranged, and these kernels will be immersed in a pool or a sea of electrons. They will be there will be mobile free moving electrons will be there, and these kernels are orderly arranged in the pool of these free moving electrons. Okay, this is the structure of a metallic solid. This part is known as kernel. Okay, now there will be free moving electrons, and this attraction between these electrons and kernels will be called by the name. What is the name given for that? Attractive force between the electron and the kernel. What is that? Any idea? It will be called as the metallic bond. Okay, and how do you get this pool of electrons?
Delocalization of valence.
Each and every atom will contribute its valence electrons to the common pool. The valence electrons, it can be one electron or it can be two electrons. These electrons will be donated to the common pool, and these electrons are free to move. And since these electrons are free to move, these metallic solids will be good conductors of both heat as well as electricity. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. The higher thermal as well as electrical conductivity of metallic solids is due to the movement of the electrons. Okay, and you can see that they will show their own characteristic properties. What are the characteristic properties of metals? Malleable, ductile. They will show ductility. They will show malleability. They will
electrical insulators are
luster,
melting point.
high melting point. This all this. Okay, good thermal as well as electrical conductors. All these are the characteristics of metallic solids. And the last category of the solids is the network solids, or covalent. We will call them as covalent solids. And generally, these covalent solids are formed by a non-metals. Non-metals, when they form solids, they will form this covalent or network solids. And these covalent or network solids, they are generally known as giant molecules. They will be known by the name giant molecules. And as I told you, generally they are formed by non-metals. They are when the non-metals are forming solids, they are forming giant molecules. And here you can see that there will be a network of covalent bonds between the adjacent atoms throughout the crystal. Network of covalent bonds. That is why we call them as network molecules or giant molecules. And due to this network of covalent molecules, these solids will be very rigid. And you know that the covalent bonds are directional in nature, and this network will be expanding in 3 dimensions. So it will give you a very hard material. And these atoms are held very strongly at their positions. And this such material so formed due to the strong network of bonds will be very hard and brittle, and they will have extremely high melting as well as melting and boiling points, and they will be poor conductors of electricity. But exceptions are there. I will give an example for this network solid as a diamond and graphite is a very familiar and best example. Diamond is very hard, one of the hardest material, And in that diamond, each carbon atom is covalently bonded to 4 other atoms. Here you can see that each carbon is linked with 4 other carbon atoms, and this expands in 3 dimensions, and each and every atom is rigidly held to at the position. Okay, and as a result, you will have there will be development of a giant molecule. Extremely high melting and boiling points will be there, and most of these materials, they will decompose even before reaching their melting point. If when you are heating them, they may decompose before reaching their boiling point. So you can give these examples: diamond, silicon carbide. All these are examples. But exceptions are there, as I told you. If you take the case of graphite, it is soft as well as it's a good conductor of electricity. And if you take the structure of graphite, each carbon atom is bonded with how many more carbon atoms in graphite?
3.
3 more carbon atoms, and it will have a layered structure. You can have hexagonal layers will be there, and these layers are held together by weak van der Waals forces. Okay, and by applying a stress, you can see that one layer can move over another layer. One layer can move over another layer because these forces that binds the different layers are very weak, and as a result, they are used as high temperature lubricants because of the ability to slide over one another. They are used as a lubricant, and you can see that each carbon is linked with 3 more carbon atoms. What is the valency of carbon?
4.
4. And one more electron is there. That electron is free, and it is delocalized electron, and it is delocalized over the entire rings, and which make them a good conductor of electricity. So that's the structural difference between graphite and diamond. And most of generally they are very hard, and they are very brittle, and they will have high melting and boiling points. So examples as I give, diamond, graphite, or silicon carbide, all these are examples of covalent or network solids. Okay, so we have seen that crystal solids can be classified based on the nature of interactions into 4 categories. One was molecular solids, second was ionic solids, then we had the metallic solids, and the last one, network solids. Then this molecular solids itself can be classified into 3 more categories. What are the 3 categories into which these molecular solids can be classified?
Non-polar, polar, and
Polar,
hydrogen.
non-polar, and hydrogen
Non-polar,
bonded.
polar, as well as um, uh, hydrogen bonded. Okay, so hydrogen bonded. So this is a difference in structure between graphite and diamond. It has a crystal lattice, whereas graphite has a layered structure. Each carbon is sp3 hybridized, and each carbon is bonded with 4 more carbon atoms. In graphite, each carbon is sp2 hybridized and is bonded with 3 other carbon atoms, and the fourth electron is free to move. It is made of tetrahedral units. It is having a planar geometry. Carbon-carbon bond length is normal carbon-carbon bond length, which is 154 picometer. Here it is 141.5 picometer. It is a rigid network which is difficult to break. It is soft and has layers can be slip over one another. It is an electrical insulator, whereas it is a good conductor of electricity. Okay, so that is about the crystal solids. And now we are going to discuss about the structure of the crystal lattice. And I hope we will discuss the structure of crystals in detail in the next class. Is it okay? Yeah. Yeah, we'll discuss about the crystal lattices and the unit cells, which is directly related with the structure of the crystal that we'll discuss in the next class. So for the time being, we'll wind up. Thank you.